Thanks.
Yo, what's up guys, this is Colin Moriarty from IGN Guides with Final Fantasy XIII boss tips. Chapter 10 has gone quite a ways, and finally you're going to fight your first boss battle, and it's going to be against a character named Cid Raines. Now, Final Fantasy veterans know that there are Cid characters in the core series all over the place. You can play as one in Final Fantasy IV, Final Fantasy VII, etc. and so on. In Final Fantasy XIII, Cid is actually a bad guy, and you're going to be fighting him. The bad news is that this is bar none the hardest battle in the game thus far, and you have to plan things to a T in order to survive here, and you have to be patient, and you have to do things just so, or you're going to get your clock cleaned, basically. The battle will last roughly 10 minutes, but you're going to want to wrap things up as soon as possible. The longer the battle goes, the less likely it is that you're going to survive. So here's the essential setup you're going to want to do as far as paradigms and characters are concerned. We went with a party of Lightning, Hope, and Fang. Now, this isn't the ideal party in almost any situation, but here it is because it'll allow you to use Synergist and Saboteur jobs rather easily, which are going to be really important in this battle. So the four paradigms you're going to want to go in with are Evened Odds, which is Medic, Synergist, and Saboteur. Relentless Assault as usual with Ravager ×2 and Commando. Perseverance, which is Medic ×2 and Saboteur, and Scouting Party, which is Commando, Medic, and Saboteur. Using these four paradigms together, you should be right as rain. The idea here is to use Gray Magic and Support Magic. So Protect and Shell will go a long way on you, but what's even more important is to make sure your Saboteur uses things like Fog, Curse, and especially Slow. Slow is going to be probably the most important Gray Magic you can cast in this entire battle, and it will keep Cid at bay long enough for you to damage him and build his stagger meter up, which is obviously integral to surviving. And of course, Medic is in 3 of the 4 paradigms, and obviously that's going to allow you to cast Cure and Cura, and as you find out, Cid hits really hard, so you're going to need it. Cid himself attacks in what he calls shifts, and he has a defensive shift, an offensive shift, and then he guards. In this defensive shift, he basically casts all sorts of great magic on himself. He can cast Protect and Shell and all those things on himself. And an offensive shift is when he attacks, and then guard is when he basically goes into a defensive posture, and you'll have a hard time attacking him and damaging him for anything, although you can still build up his stagger meter there. When he's on an offensive shift, initially he'll only use like Devastating Chains and melee attacks, and he'll also use light spells like Ruin, but when he takes half damage, he'll use a skill called Metamorphose, which will allow him to grow wings, and then his entire attack structure changes. And this is when the fight gets really difficult, so don't let the beginning of the battle lull you into a false sense of security. Basically, the most devastating attack he'll use after he uses Metamorphose is called Seraphic Rays, and he basically uses this attack pretty often, and it will inevitably hit all 3 characters, and it will damage them for at least half damage, if not more. When he uses it, you need to heal immediately, so go into Scouting Party, or better yet, Perseverance, or even Dodge, depending on what you prefer, to make sure you heal up, because if you don't heal yourself immediately after he uses that attack, and he attacks again, chances are you're going to have to break out some Phoenix Downs, because characters are going to die. And when he uses his Gray Magic, like Protect, Shell, Vigilance, Haste, and all those things, which he will use often, Dispel is the answer. So make sure you have a character that can use Dispel to especially get Haste off of him, because if he has Haste, cast on himself, he'll be able to attack and use those devastating attacks even more, which will make your life even more difficult. Other offensive attacks he uses a lot of things. He'll use Ruin, as we mentioned earlier, in Runga. He'll use Dezega and Deshelga and Protectiga, which means that your Gray Magic is going to disappear, as we mentioned earlier. And he'll even use Poison attacks, so make sure to have Asuna ready, because that will remove the effects of the poison. And since he can use Asuna on himself, he can get rid of things you cast on him, like Slow, or Curse, or whatever else, so make sure to recast things as necessary. Otherwise, this battle is all about just being patient. The first half of the battle is very easy. He'll take half damage rather quickly, but then you're going to really need to whittle down on him, because he can cure himself. He can cure himself quite a bit, so you need to make sure to outpace his curing abilities while not sacrificing your own ability to cure. And otherwise, you should be okay.